Hello and welcome to What Did I Miss? Where today I'm going over the second episode of the third season of Star Trek Discovery, titled Far From Home, and looking for Easter eggs, references, and Spider-Man movie taglines. If this is your first time visiting the channel, please hit that subscribe button, as I will be going over each episode of Discovery this season. After the first episode of the season dealt with Michael Burnham's first contact with the 32nd century, this episode did the same for the rest of the crew of the Discovery. Once again, giving us just a taste of what has happened since they left their own timeline. The episode did have an engaging story that accentuated a few members of the crew's strengths without having Burnham around. Here, I will review the episode and let you know all the references I could find, and then give you my opinion of it at the end. But please let me know in the comments what you thought of the episode and how it stacked up against the last one. This is What Did I Miss?
That's more your specialty.
This is your weekly spoiler warning once again, so if you do not want the episode ruined for you before you watch it, go watch it and then come back here. The episode starts with flashes of the crew after they have passed through the wormhole created by Burnham in the Red Angel suit last season. We see Discovery flying towards a planet as the crew tries to ready the ship for a crash landing. The ship crashes into the planet and injures a good portion of the crew in the process. This was one of my favorite scenes of the episode, as it really showed the crew working together and at their best. I also found it interesting how they arrived, as it reminded me of the time travel scene from Star Trek The Voyage Home, and it was cool to hear Reno give an explanation as to why they were all knocked out. The ship is in dire straits, as is the crew. They also realize they are not on Terra Elysium, but they do find signs of life, which tells them that their mission was a success. There are many issues with the ship, which causes somewhat of a power struggle between Philippa Georgiou and Saru. Georgiou is most concentrated on finding Burnham, while Saru has the greater ship in mind. We also see that Stamets is still alive, and he and Culber are able to share a moment. As the crew surveys the ship and the injured, we see that a bridge crew officer who is never given a name, but is from an alien race first seen in Discovery called the Osolnis, has died, and this loss definitely affects Lieutenant Detmer. I know I've seen people online say that her behavior makes it seem like perhaps Control survived within her implant, but if the writers went that route, that would pretty much mean that the whole point of traveling 1,000 years into the future was pointless and makes Season 2 way less meaningful. So I don't think that that is what is going on. I think that this is another example of Star Trek showing what really happens to officers who have to deal with these types of extreme situations. The episode Family from the fourth season of The Next Generation is a great example of this, as it showed how Picard was affected by his experience with the Borg in the prior two episodes. After the crew on Discovery realized they do not have enough rubidium, which is a fictional substance first introduced in the original series episode Patterns of Force, they find that a settlement on the planet does. Saru and Tilly go off to find it, while Georgiou is ordered to stay on the ship. Saru and Tilly come upon a bar after following someone they see in the distance. The bar is cool as it looks like a sci-fi version of an Old West bar. It looks like something you would see in a Western, but everything about it is sci-fi, from the aliens to the guns to the big chunks of planet flying in the air outside. We have seen the Old West in Star Trek before, most notably in the Season 6 Next Generation episode, A Fistful of Datas, but that of course was a recreation of the Old West, whereas this is an actual location. We also see a few coordinate men in the bar, who almost immediately draw weapons on Saru and Tilly. This species was first introduced in the show Enterprise in their first season. The men say they saw the ship crash and recognize it as Starfleet, but state that that does not mean they are actually Starfleet officers. Tilly is able to convince them after stating Starfleet regulations, and offers to trade them some dilithium for the rubidium they need. Earlier in the episode, Georgiou made it seem like Tilly was worthless, but she's able to show some quick thinking after deducing that the colony is low on dilithium, and that they will be able to trade using it. It's been interesting to watch her character develop into more of an officer, and I think of it kind of similar to the progression that Dr. Bashir went on during Deep Space Nine. When he first arrived, he was definitely more confident than Tilly, but just as naive. But by the end of the show's run 7 years later, he is one of the sullener members of the crew and is even being recruited by Section 31. Tilly watches Cal, one of the coordinates, construct a new device for them, using something called programmable matter, which is no doubt what we saw in the first episode. The way this behaved actually reminded me of how Control infected Leland, so it is possible that some of the technology Control used was still developed, but instead used for this technology. Cal also explains that the colony's courier, Zara, delivers everything they need, and as he does this, Zara arrives with a group of men. Zara kills Cal after deducing that he was lying to him and that the Discovery and her crew are in fact time travelers. He tells Saru that he is going to lead him to his ship so that he can break it down for parts. Saru, not fully aware that the Federation no longer has any strength, tries to negotiate with the man, but as they do this, some more of Zara's men arrive with Giorgio, who had been lurking around the perimeter. They act like they found her, but I think there is no doubt that she wanted to be caught. Zara shoots her on a lower setting, but Giorgio is able to overpower him and his men with Saru's help. During the fight, we see Saru use his ganglia spikes that we last saw last season use against the Baul after he learned his race could evolve. Saru stops Giorgio from killing Zara and says they will give the colony enough dilithium to power their vessels. Zara is sent out into the night and told that if he returns, he will be killed. While this is going on, Stamets and Reno are trying to work together to fix an EPS relay in a Jeffries tube, which are narrow tunnels shown in starships and named after Matt Jeffries, who designed the original Enterprise. I know that Reno offers to get someone else to do this repair, but why the hell was Stamets in this position to begin with? He just got out of a coma and has an open wound, and they have him climbing around the ship? It isn't like his expertise was needed, since Reno explains everything he has to do, which looks to be about as hard as setting up a wireless router. I get that the important part of these scenes was to show them working together, and their banter is very grumpy old man-like, but I think they could have put them in a more believable situation than have the guy who was in a coma jump into a sleeve in the ship. As they complete the initial repairs of the ship, they try to take off, but the ice, which is parasitic and is growing now that the sun is set, is keeping them in place. I couldn't help but laugh during this scene because being from Illinois, I've been stuck in snow and ice probably 100 times. The whole time I was watching the scene, I was yelling, "You gotta rock it!" at the screen like a grandfather in the backseat of a car. Just as it looks like they will not be able to lift off, another ship approaches and hits them with a tractor beam that pulls them out of the ice. As communications come back online, they see it is none other than Michael Burnham that saves them, and she explains that she has been waiting for them to arrive for a year. I thought this episode was alright, but I probably did not enjoy it as much as the first episode. It kind of feels like this should have been a two-part episode released at once with the first one, because now after 2 weeks, I still don't feel that I know much about what is going on this season, since we basically got 2 episodes of orientation to this time period. I wonder how much time will be spent in the next episode going over the year or so that Burnham was waiting for them, because it looks like we see some of that from the trailers for next week. At this point, I'm ready to see the crew move forward and truly seek out new adventures. The best parts of both of the episodes this season have been when we get peeks into this time period, like learning the state of the Federation, or seeing the exchange and how it works, or even learning what programmable matter is. But the scenery this season so far has been amazing and probably some of the best ever in Star Trek, the movies included. It is probably one of the things that is making me anxious to see more of this new universe. But you let me know, what did I miss? If there's anything from the show I didn't mention, let me know in the comments. Also, if you are planning to watch the new season of The Mandalorian, I just posted a video on 10 things I expect to see, and I will leave that video here. I will see you next time on What Did I Miss?